Hello everyone, how are we all doing? My name is Trevon from freestudiotime.com, where I help struggling engineers turn their mixes into gold. Today I'm going to be showing you how I mastered a song with only stock VSTs inside FL Studio. So let's get straight into it. Now up here you'll see I have a few ozone 10s and two 2s. I want you to just ignore that. I have all those muted. What I want you to pay attention to is the fruity limiter, the EQ, the spreader, and everything else. So first thing, fruity limiter, I used it as a compressor. Now in mastering, you always want to throw on a compressor. I normally use a multi-band compressor because whenever you use a multi-band compressor on your master track, it allows you to have a lot more control over each specific frequency range, ensuring that you can get the best sound possible out of the compressor on your master track. But in this case, the reason why I wanted to use Fruity Limiter as a compressor on my master track is because all the multi-band compressors inside Fruity are pretty bad. None of them show the amount of gain reduction you're getting as you compress your master. So that's a really big issue in my eyes, because I like to see exactly how much gain reduction I'm getting to ensure I'm not over compressing. But yeah, there is no type of compressor inside of FL that shows you how much gain reduction you're getting. So honestly, I say one of your first purchases needs to be like some type of multi-band compressor, or some type of compressor that will help you actually visualize how much gain reduction you're getting, because once you see how much gain reduction you're getting out of your compressor, whatever you're throwing that compressor on will sound so much better. It's almost impossible to try to do this thing by ear. It's not necessarily impossible, but if you're not an expert and you don't really have a feel for these things, you're never gonna get your mix to sound the way you really want it to sound without seeing that gain reduction. But anyway, so I kind of just did the best that I possibly could. Inside a Fruity compressor right here, you can kind of get a visualization of how much gain reduction you're getting as you see the dynamics. Like for instance, like right here. So as you see right here, these are like the peaks of our audio signal right here, and this shiny blue line right here is the threshold, where we have our threshold set to. How I kind of see how much gain reduction I'm getting is just by looking at my threshold, kind of like subtracting this from the average I'm getting up here from my peaks. So for instance, right here on this specific one, this is set to about like, we're at like negative 22.9 dB, and up here we're at negative 16 dB. So that's probably a little bit too much. So I could probably like let back off that a little bit even more. And that's another thing about using this, is because you can only let off by so much before things start to go bad. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like this is probably like about the best you can do. So right here I'm at 16. We're at 16 right here, and right here we're at 21. That means I'm getting close to about 5 dB of gain reduction. And also at the same time, I wanted to point out that this is like, I only have the threshold at like 0.2 dB. But with the master track, you really just have to see each specific detail, because the adjustments that we're going to be making on the master track are just going to be very minuscule, and it's kind of hard to make minuscule adjustments if you can't see any type of numbers, you know. So that's pretty much all I did for that. Then I came over here with the Fruity parametric EQ. So on my EQs for the master track, I try to never go over like 1 dB of gain. So I just came over here, I cut out the low end. I always try to cut the low end out to about 30 to 40 hertz, just because whenever you go to about like 60 or something like that, 60 hertz, it starts to sound like you're just taking too much away from the master. And then when you go listen to it in the car, it doesn't really sound like it's enough bass, and it just sounds kind of weird. So I like to take it out at about 40 hertz. Then I come over here, I boost up the high end by a very little bit. This is probably a little bit too much. I boosted it up. Oh no, this is fine. 0.6 dB. That's totally fine. And last things last, all I did was come over here to this 2199 hertz frequency, and I just gave it a tad little boost. Only reason I gave it a tad little boost is because this is where like the bulk of my vocal lies, but it's also where a lot of important information from the actual beat lies as well. So boosting this up kind of makes my vocals sound like they're actually inside the beat a little bit better, just by adding this little boost. So that's why I think it was really nice to use. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing about it. You can't really like solo out any frequencies or anything inside of Fruity parametric EQ. I don't know if that's just because I'm bougie, but like, especially when it comes to the master track, I like to solo out certain frequencies so I can actually listen to what exactly I'm going to be affecting. But I kind of just had to boost it up and just like try to get a feel for it. And another thing I did was add a spreader. Fruity spreader is kind of just like a stereo imager a little bit. It's the closest thing that we have to a stereo imager in here. And if you don't really like this one, you can also use the Stereoizer from Ozone. They have like a free VST you can just download. I downloaded it before I bought like the whole expensive stuff with Ozone, but this can work pretty decent too. So the spreader is pretty much just like spreading your entire master out a little bit across the stereo image depending on your adjustments. Once you start to spread out the stereo image of your low end more, it'll just sound bad. So you want to make sure this one, like if I opened up the stereo imager, like the actual version of like a stereo widener, let me just show you so you have a better understanding of what I'm talking about. So yeah, this right here, this is pretty much the same thing as the spreader, but I have a lot more control over it, right? So it's like a multi-band imager or spreader, and these are like the different frequencies I have to control. But as you can see right here from my low end, I have the stereo character to -16, and I have the highest set to 14. But the reason why this is so low is just because the higher you turn this up, the more out of balance is going to make your overall master sound. So you want to make sure that you get that taken care of by either going all the way down here to -16 for your stereo width across these bands right here, or if you're using something like a spreader, you want to make sure that you just come over here and you bypass the actual frequencies for the spreader when talking about the low end to about wherever you think that the low end is. So in this case, it's going to be at about 160 hertz. So I just brought it down to about 150. That's where I kind of heard it at. Very subtle adjustments using the spreader or like a stereo imager on your master track will really just kind of contribute to that glued together sound. Now, another thing that I like to throw on here is a sound goodizer. Sound goodizer, a lot of people hate on it. I actually love sound goodizer. Again, when used in a good way, sound goodizer can normally make your master sound pretty freaking good. All I did right here was just turn it up by a very little bit. This A right here just brings out a lot more of the character and tonality of your master. It is really cool. Makes it sound a little bit more fatter as well. That's why I kind of like to use this preset on almost everything. There's not really too much to go over with this sound goodizer just because it's just this knob and it's these down here. So I'm just going to move on to the next thing. Last things last, fruity limiter, another fruity limiter, but I'm actually using this one as a limiter. All I did right here was just make the ceiling to about -3 dB. That was pretty much it, honestly. But now I do just want to mention, this is like a super fast run through of what I would do if I didn't have any type of pro VSTs in here to master my songs with, and just the stock VSTs. So I should mention I didn't really try to, like, you know, make it as professional as it can possibly be, just because it's not really a point. I mean, honestly, you can get a decent master. I can say that you can definitely get a decent master out of using these stock VSTs, but if you really want your song to sound good, you're just gonna have to buy a few plugins. I mean, that's really all it is to it. I'm gonna tell you right now, there is no pro mix master engineers out there that aren't using any type of like paid VSTs in their songs, just because it doesn't make any sense, especially in a DAW like FL Studio. Like, they have a lot of trash plugins in here, I'm gonna be totally honest. And honestly, all DAWs do. What really matters about the DAW you choose is like how easy everything is to operate. But as far as like the actual virtual studio equipment that comes inside these digital audio workstations, honestly, I wouldn't count too much on it. I feel like people get a little bit too dependent on these stock VSTs, and there definitely comes a time where you need to stray away from a bit from it. But you can definitely get a good sound out of it. I'm actually just gonna let you hear what I got out of this so far.
Stay looking right, I'ma stay being wrong, cause we gon' know you wouldn't be here if we waiting for the dollar bill. But I know you wouldn't be here if we waiting for the dollar bill. Oh no, I'ma be here, I'm just trying to catch you fall. You just stay being tight, I'ma stay being wrong, cause we gon' know.
Now this sounds way better when I throw on like my actual pro VSTs right here, like the Ozone 10s and stuff, but I don't want to show you that right now because my CPU will start to tweak out and it will just be really bad. So we're just going to leave it right there for right now. But all right, everyone, that is a basic rundown of how I would master my song with stock VSTs inside FL Studio. Now, struggling mix master engineers, what if I told you I could get you up to a high quality level in only 30 days? 30 days is all the time I need to pull you up to my level and get you making high quality mixes. If that sounds like something you're interested in, make sure you hit the link down below so we can talk a little bit more about it and see what works best for your personal journey. But all right, everyone, I hope you got a lot of value out of this video. If you did, make sure to hit like and make sure to hit subscribe. I'll catch you all in the next one.